Today I am joined by John Moody, the DA Gauteng leader, and Jack Bloom, the Shadow MEC for Health in the Gauteng legislature. Today in our discussion, we'll be discussing the tragedy of Life Esidimeni. Please do follow us at DA_GPL using the hashtag Makhura must go, as the DA will be tabling the motion of no confidence tomorrow on the 15th of May against Premier David Makhura. Thank you, John, once again. I would just like to understand, why is it that the DA will be tabling a motion of no confidence in David Makhura tomorrow?
Well, holding public office is a privilege that comes with huge responsibility. David Makhura, as the Premier, is the head of the Gauteng government. So his responsibilities are even bigger. Under his watch, 144 of the most vulnerable in society, mentally ill patients, died a heinous death. Deaths that could have been avoided. The issue of moving patients from Life Esidimeni Clinic to mostly unregistered, unqualified, and ill-resourced NGOs fell under his watch. He was aware of it. My colleague Jack Bloom will expand on that. He turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to the pleas and the warnings. So therefore, he has to take full responsibility for what happened. You know, the massacres at Marikana and at Sharpo put together is less than the 144 people who have died on his watch, under a government of his control. So he cannot absolve himself and wash his hands and say, I'm innocent. He has to be held accountable. And we had called upon him to take action against Mahlangu. He failed to do so. Therefore, he is negligent and he is culpable. He has to do the honorable thing and he has to step down, which we have called upon him to do as well. He has refused, and therefore we have the motion of no confidence against him. The reason for the motion of no confidence is for us to restore confidence in public representatives by the community out there.
Thank you, John. Jack, just to tell our viewers on social media who are following us on Facebook and as well on Twitter, what is the historical context of what happened? What were the warning signs? What were the initiatives, as well as you as Shadow MEC, taking to warn them about the disaster and the crisis that's going to happen, resulting in the death of 144 mentally ill patients?
Well, it goes back to about 3 years ago in mid-2015, when the former MEC for Health, Kudani Mahlangu, took a decision to cancel the contract with Life Healthcare Esidimeni, which had about 2,000 mental health patients at that time. And she took it to the Budget Council of the provincial government, in which the Premier sits. So he did know that the contract was going to be cancelled. And as the finding of Justice Moseneke has found, is that it was irrational. She had no real reason to do it, but she persisted with it against all the warnings. And if I could detail to you, the warnings included questions in the House that I asked and got replies, and then I expressed concern. I warned the provincial governments repeatedly. But in civil society, NGOs, medical professionals, there were even students who wrote to the Premier directly, and they said that we are treating mental health patients at the Waverley Esidimeni premises, and it'll be a disaster if you move them. So all of these warnings were ignored, and Kudani Mahlangu persisted with this, and we've seen the results. And the Premier, of course, does need to be fully accountable for this, because he appointed Kudani Mahlangu as the MEC for Health. He appointed the former head of department, Barney Silabano. So that's how it happened. And if there is to be accountability, it has to start at the top.
Thank you, Jack. For those following us on social media, please remember to tweet us at DA_GPL using the hashtag MakuraMust4. Those live streaming from our Facebook, please do comment in the comment section with all the questions that you would like for us to answer today. I'm going on forward with the Life Esidimeni tragedy and the motion of no confidence tomorrow. Jack, could you also, and John, please also just tell us, why are you doing it against Premier David Makura when former MEC Qatani Mahlangu has resigned?
Well, as Jack had indicated earlier on, the Premier appoints his cabinet. He appointed Mahlangu. He had the right to remove her from office, and we had in fact called upon him to do so when she lied to us, telling us that 36 people had died, when in fact there was many more who had passed on. And Makura neglected to do so. In fact, we'd like to believe that he in fact defended her. So as a result thereof, many more people lost their lives when it could have been stopped in its tracks. So he has to be held accountable.
Thank you, John. With so many people who are still missing and unaccounted for in the Life Esidimeni tragedy, I also want to ask Jack, what is the cost implications to taxpayers, and where will the Gauteng government find the money to pay for the lawsuits and claims of the families of the deceased?
Well, we know that Justice Moseneke made an award of 1.2 million rand to the claimants. My estimate is it's coming to something like at least 150 million rand, plus the cost of the arbitration. So already we're looking at something like 200 million rand, and it's going to have to come from somewhere. It's going to have to come out of the budget. The provincial government only budgeted for 28 million rand, so where's the rest going to come from? And unfortunately, if some of it comes out of health, it's going to affect healthcare in our hospitals. But that's not the full extent of the cost, the financial cost. There are still potential claimants of those who survived. Justice Moseneke kept the door open, and he said that further claimants are welcome to come forward, and they'll also get 1.2 million rand. So, I mean, the potential cost could be hundreds of millions.
Added to that is the fact that they will be erecting a monument also. Mm. And you asked the other question about people being missing. Indeed, even in that score, Makura and his government has failed the people, these patients, because it was once more Jack Bloom who went to the police to go and lay charges or to open up cases for missing people. As a result of his efforts, a good number of people have already been found, but there are still quite a number of them that are missing. Because records went missing as well, you know, a person asked the question, how many people have indeed died and how many are of those, you know, are still on the missing list.
Can I just say that the figure appears to be more than 40 who are missing, and unfortunately I think we have to presume that a lot of them are now dead, because without care they couldn't survive, and shockingly some of them we don't even have names for them. You know, I've repeatedly called on the provincial government to give us photographs, full names. I mean, the public should try and find these people. But unfortunately, after, you know, it's 2 years now, most of them, I think, will have to be presumed dead. So that's 144 plus maybe another 40. It's just too shocking for words.
This is the sad tragedy of what the Gauteng government has allowed to happen. And I'd just like to thank our viewers as well who are watching with us as we live stream. Please do remember to tweet to us at DA_GPL using the hashtag MakuraMustGo, and as well on our Facebook live stream, and post your questions in the comments section. We do have questions that have come through from some of our viewers. One of the questions that has been asked by Asanda is, do you expect a backlash on this motion?
No, not at all. But we do expect for the ANC to defend Makura. We've seen how they had defended Jacob Zuma when he was at fault. And years later, after much damage to the image of public representatives, the image of South Africa, and the lack of governance, they then, you know, had to oust him. But that is exactly how the ANC operates. So the backlash would be in all probability that they would be trying to insult Jack and myself and the DA for taking up this issue. We take our responsibility as public representatives very seriously, and we will carry out our responsibility without fear or favor.
All right. Another question that has come through from our viewers on social media is from Xolani. Xolani says, why did the Premier take so long to respond to this issue?
Well, I think that the phrase I used at the time was that Khudani Mshlangu was too big to fire. She was a very senior member of the ANC, and that she knew too many secrets, let's be honest. She could implicate too many people in terrible things, and she was one of them. And in fact, just recently, the president of this country, President Ramaphosa, greeted and hugged Khudani Mshlangu at a march, an ANC march in Soweto, and he called her a comrade. How's that? So a comrade is always a comrade. So basically, when he should have fired her, he didn't. She was actually forced to resign when the Ombudsman's report came out. And the Premier must have it on his head, because if he had fired her then, I think many more people could have lived. But, obviously she's a comrade and they didn't want to fire her.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Jack. The other question that has come through from Karabo. What about the payments of those funds to those families? Is that not justice enough?
No amount of money can bring back a life. These families have suffered severely, emotionally. But let's call to mind how these people were treated, and in all probability how they died. In the investigations, it has been found that many of these people had actually died of kidney failure, and that would indicate that people had actually died because of lack of water and lack of care. So these people were definitely treated worse than animals. I'd like to venture to say that even the cattle that Jacob Zuma received from Premier of the Northern Cape, of the Northwest, would have been treated and handled more better as such, because of the value that would have been added to them as cattle. And in this case, human life was just but cheap.
Okay, thank you, John. Jack, to you, a question from Mongani goes as follows. Have the conditions improved for the mentally ill after this?
Well, I'd like to say that they have. I can say that the patients of Life Esidimeni who went to the NGOs have all been transferred back either to Life Esidimeni, again, where they should never have been removed from, or to the Selby Park Hospital, which I visited. And I must say, provincial government is paying 15,000 Rand a month to keep them there, and I've inspected it for myself. I think the conditions are good, and I hope they stay good. But I have to say that for other psychiatric patients, I've visited psychiatric facilities at ordinary hospitals, and they're not good at all. They're overcrowded. They have to put psychiatric patients in with ordinary patients. There isn't sufficient security, and it's very upsetting, because I think that we're still not treating mental health patients properly and with proper security and dignity.
Thank you, Jack. To our viewers at home, please do follow us. Do send your questions through for the motion of no confidence in Premier David Makhura using the hashtag Makhura must go. And as well, you can comment in the comment section on our Facebook live feed, and you can tweet at DA_GPL. The other question that came through is from Johan. Johan says, what will the DA do better for mentally ill patients and their families?
Well, I think, we must fix up the Gauteng Health Department. It's an absolute mess. It's in a budget crisis. We keep hearing turnaround plans, which nothing comes of them. The DA will fix up the Gauteng Health Department so that it something like the Western Cape Health Department, which spends within budget, the right people in the right job. And there's a lot of corruption. You could see this already with why some of these NGOs were set up just deliberately just to get the money from these patients. So, run things efficiently and effectively, clean up corruption, fix up our hospitals, and I think other things will come right as well. But we have a terribly run health department, and that's why Esidimeni happened.
There's a lack of accountability and a lack of oversight. And we believe that if you just do what we ought to do, circumstances could be different and conditions can be improved upon. So it's not rocket science. Just do what needs to be done.
All right. Thank you, John. John, another question that came through from Stephen is where is Qatani now?
I don't know, maybe Jack and his contacts will be able to tell you.
She's a private citizen, but it seems that she's still on the executive of the Gauteng ANC. And can you believe that? She's still a member of the provincial executive of Gauteng, and they say that she will appear before their integrity committee. Now, I can't imagine what sort of integrity committee it is if they haven't dealt with something like this and they haven't kicked her off by now, that she apparently is still a member in good standing of the PEC of the ANC in Gauteng. So she's a private citizen, I'd imagine, but I think she should also be charged, criminally charged, and appear in court along with the other people that have been implicated.
Thank you, Jack. John, another question to you is, do you feel that tomorrow, going into the motion of no confidence against David Makhura, that opposition parties will support the motion, and whether there is a moral consciousness amongst the ANC members in the Gauteng legislature to vote in favor of this motion?
You've put your finger on it. It is about moral conscience. If all of us take our office seriously and the reasoning why we are there, then of course people won't need to still vote according to party lines. But we know how the ANC operates. It will be according to party political lines. But I have a lot of faith in a number of people, on the opposite side of the House, who I believe are people of integrity, and if afforded the opportunity for them to vote according to their conscience, I have no doubt that we'll be able to succeed tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Another question that came in from Teresa. What other reasons should Makhura be fired for besides life esidimeni?
Well, there's the issue of him being the champion of fighting corruption. In his first State of the Province address, he made it very clear that that would be one of his priorities. To date, only 3 people have been charged in his entire administration. And we have brought a number of instances, together with prima facie evidence, of corruption in different departments. In my case, I brought him a whole dossier with regard to Chief Fleet. An absolutely sweet bugger all has been done about it. So that's another failure of his government. The other, of course, is the issue of education. He has an MEC who is trying fairly hard, and that we will acknowledge. But he's still being hamstrung because of the influence of SATO. And the Premier is not, as far as I'm concerned, giving him the necessary support. And therefore, even our education system is falling apart.
Thank you. Many out there would maybe consider this as a way of the DA politicking for 2019 elections. And the question is it about the politics or is it about the lives at hand?
There can be nothing more of a lie to call this politicking. The DA has it on record that we are robust in exercising our responsibility to be accountable to the public. And therefore, we hold not just ourselves accountable, but we hold government to account. Whether we are in government or whether the ANC or any other parties in government, we take our responsibility as public representatives very seriously. And under our watch, we are not going to allow a tragedy such as this to go unaccounted for and just to be swept under the rug. We need to be held accountable ourselves as public representatives. And if we do not continue to take up this fight, we would be remiss in our responsibility to be the advocates of those who are marginalized and forgotten.
Lady, I must add to that we are the official opposition, and it's up to us to hold for ultimate accountability. It cannot be that 144 people have died, many have suffered, there's still people missing, and we're not calling on the government to resign. In other countries, in other democracies, the government would have resigned. They wouldn't have been waited for a motion of no confidence. So I think we're doing our job. And, we'll have to see what the reaction is of the governing party and other parties represented in the legislature.
All right. Thank you, Jack and John. Another question from Annika. Are families getting enough support besides the financing?
Well, as part of the arbitration process, they're meant to receive counselling. Let me say that, it's a lot of what the provincial government is doing is because they've been ordered to do it by the health ombudsman and by Justice Moseneke. So I think they are largely carrying this out. But at the end of the day, what's not happening is the police are not finalising the investigation. There's still post-mortem reports that are outstanding. And we need to see this going to court. That's the ultimate ultimate comfort for the families. So that's what we would like to see, that the investigations are concluded as speedily as possible and all these people end up in court and get prison sentences at worst.
On that issue, the police are not obliged to wait until they have all 144 post-mortem reports, etc. They can go ahead on a single case, and then the necessary charges against Makura has to be included in that litigation, quite frankly. And MEC Mahlangu and everyone else who was involved in this tragedy. So the police must get on with their job. And that is our call.
And then another question that has come through from Sipiwe. What was the ANC's initial response to this matter?
Initial response? Well, they defended Kwadani to the end. I was attacked most viciously by the Infrastructure Development MEC, Jacob Mamabolo, who issued 2 press statements, and he also did a YouTube video, people might want to look it up, where he actually spent 10 minutes attacking me for being, quote, racist and chauvinist because I was attacking Kwadani Mahlangu and calling on her to stand down. So let's be honest. The ANC defended Kwadani Mahlangu right up to the very end, and you'd think that they would have already seen that things were going drastically wrong. So they only took action because they were forced to. That's the reality.
Thank you, Jack. Another question that has come through from Keith. Keith says the following. What happens if the motion is not successful tomorrow?
Well, it won't be the end of the road, because believe you me, we are investigating every other avenue possible for us to continue to take the fight to the ANC in this regard. As we had indicated earlier, we are resolute in bringing and holding those accountable.
All right, thank you. Remember to be following us at DA_GPL. And if you're live streaming from Facebook, please post your questions in the comment section. And as well, we're using the hashtag #MakuraMustGo. The motion of no confidence is to be tabled by the DA in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature tomorrow, being the 15th of May at 10 a.m. Thank you so much, as well, gentlemen, for the time that you are giving us and responding to our viewers on social media and giving them clarity to the severity of the tragedy. Byron also sent through a question. What help has the DA been giving to families?
Well, I think the mere fact that Jack has been the champion in bringing this matter into the public domain and continuing to push for people to be held accountable. It is as a result of his tireless work and advocacy that this tragedy has in fact been dealt with thus far. And going forward, it is our responsibility to ensure that we look to Makura's government to actually fulfill their obligations in terms of the Commission's report, but more than that, for us to ensure that they put checks and balances into place so that this tragedy is never ever repeated again.
Thank you. And Jack, from your side as well, what is it that you'll be taking moving forward as well in your role as oversight as Shadow MEC?
Well, our health system as a whole, we've already mentioned how our mental health patients currently treated. I can tell you now, if you go up the road to Schadenheke, Johannesburg Hospital, there's a terrible psychiatric ward there. It was supposed to be renovated years ago, but because of probable corruption. It still hasn't been renovated. There's the psychiatric wards at Helen Joseph Hospital, still not fixed up. In fact, I had a press conference about a year ago where I highlighted just how terribly mental health patients are still being treated, and in the context of our overall health system, because there are other esedimeni's happening all the time. You know, one of them is our cancer treatment. You know, if you're not giving cancer patients treatment early, you know, with radiation and chemotherapy, then you're in effect killing them. And, you know, I'm afraid to say that in many parts of our health system, people are dying because they're not getting treatment soon enough. And I think that's my job in fixing up the oversight and pointing out the problems so that we can fix the overall health system in Gauteng, because there's no doubt that things are massive problems. Do you know that you have to wait 5 years to have a hip replacement at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital? I mean, that's shocking. And our casualties, you go there on a Saturday night, over the weekends, they're people on the floor and people are dying. And this is another area where the provincial government has just failed abysmally.
Right. Thank you, Jack. The other question that has come through is from Siswe. Siswe is asking, will the vote be a secret ballot tomorrow?
We're leaving that up to the Speaker. It's for the Speaker to decide whether it will be a secret vote or a public one as such. I just want to remind the public that with the vote against Jacob Zuma, the DA did not really support the secret ballot vote, not at all. But we did support the underlying motion for him to be removed from office. So, in fact, from my side, I'd love for it to be an open vote, and then we call for a division as well, so that it can be on record as to which members have voted for or who have voted against, and hold us accountable. The public needs to hold us accountable, all of us.
In holding public representatives accountable, Karen asked, do you have support of other political parties?
Well, we have put in our motion of no confidence. All political parties who are represented in the legislature would have had copies thereof. And it is their responsibility to really take their job seriously and their responsibility seriously. And we haven't gone out there soliciting support from any of the other political parties. Within our own caucus, we are resolute about the fact that we will vote against Makhura tomorrow. And that is why, as per your earlier question, we perhaps shouldn't push for people to actually, be named as such in terms of how they have voted on this very critical issue.
Okay. Do you have any idea how much the Gauteng provincial government is planning on spending on a memorial for those who have lost their lives?
Not really. I mean, Judge Moseneke said there should be a memorial in consultation with the families. So I think that's very important, that we respect the wishes of the families, and must be obviously something appropriate and something that's a permanent reminder that this should never ever happen again. So we're not sure at this stage how much this monument would cost, but clearly, if it's going to be a decent memorial, it'll have to cost something that's, quite substantial, actually.
Added to those costs, we will be looking at, would there be budgets for the maintenance and upkeep? Because we have seen in the past where monuments or memorials have been erected, and that is just the budget to put it up. And then the follow-up in terms of maintenance and upkeep, that's where it falls short. So a few years later, you will find that those places become derelict. And instead of it being a place of honor, it in fact becomes another dishonor.
Thank you so much. John, thank you for being with us today, and as well communicating why is it that the DA will be doing the motion of no confidence tomorrow in Premier David Makhura. Jack, we'd also like to thank you for your outstanding work in doing oversight of the health department in this province and ensuring that the public health sector actually does improve, and that as a society we're aware of the most vulnerable in our communities. Please do go and sign our petition, David Makhura Must Go. It is available on the DA website for Gauteng. As well, please do continue tweeting, and let it not just be a social engagement of this nature in this space where we highlight how the vulnerable in our communities have their rights infringed upon and how they are losing their lives, but let it be something that resonates and a way of life for all of us. I'd like to thank our viewers who are watching from social media. My name is Dikeledi Salowa, and thank you so much for giving us your time today to be with us. And thank you so much again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.